listen to, and you listen to a lot of music, you're a critic and a jazz journalist. Do you see any connection?
Well, yeah, I think there is, for a number of reasons. First of all, a lot of the younger recorded jazz musicians like Corey have grown up with hip hop, so that's seeping in some different way. And jazz has always been this hybrid that absorbs all the things around it, brings it into its fold. One of the real obstacles, I think, though, when you start comparing jazz and hip hop, is that hip hop contains very few of the elements, if any. I mean, this is the thing to discuss. Very few of the elements that have traditionally defined jazz, even the broadest definition of jazz. I mean, jazz brought rocket in the 1960s. It brought in all kinds of world music influences in the 90s, just the way it brought in various popular music things before that. But most of those things had some organic base rhythmically, as well as in terms of extended improvisation that you could relate to jazz. Hip-hop doesn't really work that way, even though there's a lot of musicians who have come from jazz who are playing hip-hop and playing it really well. I mean, it's amazing how many musicians in hip-hop groups are trained jazz musicians, and when they're not on the road with whoever they're performing, are playing jazz in clubs. There's a lot of that going on. So I think that there can be a crossover and there can be that kind of a fusion. I think it's more difficult than people blithely suggest because of these actual musical differences in the forms. I mean, jazz is so organic and it's about this kind of interaction. So much of hip-hop involves production, sampling, doing a lot of stuff in the studio, using things that were already there when jazz's greatest strength is asking its musicians to create something that was never there before.
Tell me about how you deal with this question about negative images in the music and the lyrics and the words.
What, through hip-hop?
Yeah.
I think that's a cop-out. I think that negative images and words are being displayed and have traditionally been displayed through all types of media. And I think that anyone who wants to focus in on hip-hop as that place where we find negative images of people of color around the country, I think they have on blinders. I think that they're not paying attention to the history of the world, political, musical, and obviously propaganda, which then moves in the media. I think that all forms of communication are utilized to put forth a particular mindset. And it's about the person who has the mic and what their mindset is and what it is that they're trying to voice. I think that today, as it has been over the last 25, 30 years, we just recognize the power of hip-hop, which is really, for me, the outgrowth of jazz. As I listen to you describe jazz, that sounds like hip-hop to me. And anyone that would say that hip-hop is different from jazz, I would agree with you from an instrumental standpoint.
That's about it, yeah.
But anything else, I would say they are very similar.
By anything else, are we talking about culture?
Yeah, I mean,
Because there's definitely similarities.
yeah, because jazz was a lifestyle back then. You had, hey, daddy-o, what's up, baby? All these culture and verbiage all came from jazz vernacular back then. Same thing with hip-hop. It's a lifestyle. The way I dress, I'm an 80s child, you know what I'm saying? I was born in 79, but I grew up in the 80s, and, you know, Run DMC made Adidas, basically. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the other way around. And you got to also remember, like he said, the similarities, which are like ciphers. Anybody know what a cipher is? Yeah. Hip-hop. Yeah. The same thing like a jam session. You know what I'm saying? You trading ideas, you battling. You know, it's the same thing. So the similarities are pretty much right there. They're not juxtaposed.
I think what we see today is not so much about hip-hop, it is about what popular, and it's not just so much about rap, it's about what popular culture, a culture that is, for the most part, controlled, but there's a mindset and an outlook of what people are comfortable with hearing from African Americans or people of color that does not threaten them and that they would like to hear and promote in other places. And this is not all white people for sure. We're talking about an elite power structure that controls media and communications. And if you step into a particular box that they are comfortable with, they will promote you forever and a day. And I think subconsciously, and really just ingrained in the history of art and culture, really of the world, across the world, when you have a Corey who'll come up in his, you know, in his Adidas and have his horn and, you know, play it to the T and understand everything that goes along with that. You put the mic in front of him and he's able to, you know, speak in a way that proves not education from a school point, but just education from a knowledge base that I understand and can see through the nonsense. When you have that strong black male figure that's speaking for their community, that immediately, for many reasons, gets shot down. It's not what culture embraces. So now we do embrace booty shaking, smoking, sipping on that lean, riding around,
Modern day minstrel.
doing all that. We love that. And so that ends up getting promoted because that speaks to our lower self, which doesn't really take anything to get to. I think we accept that more than we do the other images. And I think that's why rap/hip-hop gets the bad rap that it does.